Hello everyone, I'm Nima Sharafi Rohani. Today I want to talk about one of my research, which is urban design analysis of New York City's virtual model. This work has been done by collaboration with Dr. Kim. The COVID-19 pandemic drastically impacted human lifestyle and transforming every paradigm into various virtual ways. Universities, schools, classes, and offices started to be remote, and people started to spend time with digital tools and virtual worlds to escape the reality's horrors. As metaverses are a sort of visual worlds, and the word meta meaning beyond and verse derived from the word universe, it aspires to describe a synced, shared, and persistent simulated three-dimensional virtual world. We should consider that the metaverses can solve multiple social problems that emerged from the COVID-19 pandemic. Meetings, classes, sports, collaboration, and many other activities can be done by different metaverses. However, a world should pass through 6 different filters to consider as virtual. It must possess a defined physics. The user or player must be represented as an individual avatar. The world cannot be a turned off and turned on type. And the world must be either multiplayer or multi-user. The world must be persistent. And finally, though it may seem evident that the world must not be reality. Many digital games contain visual worlds, and visual worlds mostly contain urban environments. It should be acknowledged that some of them have artistic values and received increasing attention from fields such as architecture and landscape architecture. The digital games industry is a young and massive industry. However, it has a short history. As mentioned before, some urban environments of digital games are designed adaptively, but they are the outcome of practice and through the experience of many years. Although companies are using cutting-edge technologies for the game productions, but most of their efforts is technological, such as more realistic graphics and higher fidelity without regard to the artistic part. Unlike other tasks in digital game design, such as user interface design, game rules, and avatar design, designing an urban environment requires careful consideration to fulfill the player's needs. In this regard, the industry suffers from lack of design techniques. 2 factors led to these restrictions. Firstly, most companies don't have precise technologies and methods, and some seniors are using them as their expertise. Second, if the company has a specific method or technique, they protect it and they don't expose those approaches since they're industrial secrets. Therefore, it's hard to collect any helpful references to this topic. Due to these facts, the research questioned how the game designers developed urban environments for digital games. Rob Shields believes that cognitively human beings are more comfortable with abstractions, so making subtle change to the urban environments makes our use of virtual environments more comfortable. In addition, some senses in virtual environments are absent, and the experiences between physical and visual are totally different. So by considering these 2 statements for modeling the replicas, virtual environment designers don't need to model every aspect of the urban environment. As you can see in the photo, the experiences are totally different. So we choose Tom Clancy's The Division as our case study, which is an online multiplayer open world game, and it's a replica for New York City. The designers try to invent creative methods to downgrade the urban scale. The game has been studied and analyzed by several scholars, most of them focused on technical parts and cultural effects. However, none of those research focused on the design part. These research designed this methodology to uncover the creative ways that the Ubisoft team used for developing this game. Since for studying a book, it's necessary to read it. In order to understand and analyze the digital game, it's necessary to play it. In this regard, first 5 levels of the game have been played to access Chelsea map. Due to the time restriction, the research was not able to play all the game and analyze it. Streets and buildings are the major elements of a street, so these two components were analyzed. And as the study deals with the 3D representation of the urban environments of the digital games, the streets and buildings of Chelsea are compared with the Google Street View map and all of the details written in an Excel spreadsheet file. The designers tried to model a small part of Brooklyn and nearly 1/3 of Manhattan's area, which means over 113 square kilometers. After analyzing, it was relevant to know how Ubisoft designers approached the challenge of reconstructing a large environment as small as possible, and it's clear which parts of massive New York was tried to recreate as a replica. By using comparative method, the research found that the game designers were able to create a replica 2.5 times smaller than the real New York. We compared 70 buildings of 3 streets to find the differences. Yellow, brown, and red are the primary colors used for the buildings to communicate with a warm feeling. 61% of the buildings' colors and texture are same, and for 27 buildings, the color has been changed to synchronize it with the game's atmosphere. In addition, 45% of buildings' elevation were same, and for 38 buildings, the designer increased or decreased the elevations till skyline to make a deep perspective. Architects and landscape architects are the people who have been trained to enhance the sense of place by using accurate skylines. However, some buildings hadn't designed in an elegant way. To avoid same mistakes for the replicas developments and making a comfort scene, the designers increased or decreased the elevation till skyline to make a deep perspective. Using a metaphor is to take the concept that we understood the second object by representing with less elements. As an example, in this scene, Ubisoft designers tried to show buildings with fewer windows and deleting the ground floor shops. Using this method, describes New York and increases the time efficiency for the designers. Since using a metaphor is to take the concept that we understood the second object by representing with lesser elements, the user can clearly understand it. As an example here, the designers try to show building A with merging building A and B. Using this method describes New York, and maybe it increased the efficiency for the designers. As you can observe in the photos, the designers excluded building with a high level of details because they are not counting as landmarks, and the excluded building B and the extended building A. This technique was applied in multiple streets, which helped the designers to decrease the number of modeling buildings. This diagram describes 3 applied techniques of shifting the building's place, merging, and deleting structures. According to Lynch, districts are elements that play the primary role in the image of a city. So it's significant to let the players experience most parts of each district. However, designing whole parts of each district considers lots of time and effort. In this regard, to minimize the urban environment's vastness and prevent developing lots of unnecessary spaces that the player will not use, designers chose one row of each street and merged it with the next street's row. Most of the people use landmarks and create a personal movie in their heads. So to minimize the urban environment's vastness, the designers tried to decrease the length of the long streets, and by excluding small buildings of each district. In addition, a grand vista appears when the environment contains high buildings. On the other hand, most of the open world game contains they are containing missions, and the players don't leave the area till they are finishing the mission. And the first component which the player are interacting with is the streets. So due to the perspective effect, the player prefers not to see a distant scene, but pay more attention in close views. Therefore, deleting small buildings helps to make a grand vista. For instance, if most buildings have 10 floors and some have less than 4 floors in the middle of the street, designers can exclude those small buildings. In many cities, including New York, similar buildings in neighborhoods have been built, and in several cases, all building facades of a street are built as same as each other. On a hand, vision is the most essential sense of the human in both real and virtual environments. However, we focus on what attracts us more in the visuality. So during exploration in the virtual landscape, players don't focus on the whole travel experience, same as what we usually do in the real world. On the other hand, according to the story layer's significance in designing the game environment, the designers can delete or exclude some block of the streets that don't involve the game story. For those streets, Ubisoft designers delete blocks of streets in several places. To conclude, the research accurately compared the in-game map with the New York map, and many dissimilarities have been found. By searching on the game forums, the research found that some players understood the excluded parts, which disturbed their sense of place. So it can trouble players' perspective, especially those who are living in the New York. The research highlighted that architecture and landscape architecture are essential in designing virtual worlds. For instance, landmarks are crucial cultural elements, which players can communicate with and get historical information, making them curious to explore the area. It may be necessary to use those techniques in the development of games to enhance their playability. Therefore, as Lynch described, to create a realistic city model, there must be enough accurate elements in the city. By implementing the meaning and values symbolized by place features or place icons, architects and landscape architects can form new places that mimic reality. Results demonstrated some techniques to redesign the special layouts for designing the physical world's replicas. It must be acknowledged that this study has limitations. The main limitation of this study is that only one digital game was studied as the case study. More digital games with different land uses should be examined. In addition, we should consider that every human being shares different procedures and priorities to recognize a space based on their experiences. These are all the references that I used. And at the end, I want to mention that all these research and scientific studies are for humanity's development. Although we want to alter many things to visual versions, we should consider that war and violence is real. It really kills innocent people, and without humanity, all of these studies are meaningless. So I want to express my empathy with the innocent people and families that they're losing their beloved ones due to the inequalities and dictatorships that are come from machine hearts. Thank you for listening, and I would like to hear your questions and feedbacks related to the research.